So I'm gonna do something a little, not really different this time, you know, if you're following this. So the last few times, you know, I've read different shows based on things. But here's what I'm gonna do to start this one. So as you know, the season is over. The summer season is starting soon, which means the last season has ended, which means we can check out some reviews. We can check out some reviews of previous shows now that they have concluded and finalized. Things like 6.56 on Shield Hero 2. Things like 6.79 on whatever that says. Some of these look... I kind of wanted to watch this one, but I'm not sure about it. And this one has a high rating. I'm not sure about it either. Anyway. Here we go. We're going to start with Tate no Yusha, otherwise known as Shield Hero Season 2. Reminder, heavy spoilers for shows if you don't want to be spoiled. However, I will be actively looking at reviews that are negatively scoring, so maybe you don't want to watch these shows to begin with. This is definitely one of those shows that you don't want to watch to begin with. Wait, it was only 13 episodes long? Wow. Oh. What do we got here? All episodes, all episodes. All episodes. Oh, yes. All right, Mr. Rebel Panda. Tell me what you got. All right, I forgot the mascot. Okay. Now we're ready. Is everybody ready? Love is War, I believe, is the highest rated anime on MAL right now. Yes, it has overtaken Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I'm not even sure how, but whatever. Here we go. Countless anime transport you into fantasy worlds filled with excitement and wonder, far from your dreary everyday life. Then there are anime like Shield Hero 2nd Season that make you wish you were doing homework instead of watching it. The rising of the Shield Hero Season 2 is a significant departure from the first that will disappoint fans, but I'm just here to say I told you so. Alright, Mr. Panda. For starters, Shield Hero has abandoned its revenge fantasy premise. The Shield Hero has already risen, gained redemption, got his revenge, and now people cheer for him and his overpowered crew like he's another generic Isakai protagonist. The waves are still a threat to the kingdom of Melchromark. I didn't read that right. The main goal no longer hinges on fighting other humans. The new enemy is a guardian beast, the Spirit Tortoise. This was awful when I tell you this arc was boring even by Shield Hero's astronomically low standards. Shield Hero has never been an impressive spectacle, but Cinema Citrus hit a new low at this level of stiff animation. Flaccid directing. That's a good word right there. And outright lazy artwork. They seem to have taken inspiration from the Promised Neverland 2nd Season by trying to torture unsuspecting fans. The Godzilla-sized CGI tortoise is the first major hit of the season. The hideous CGI quality couldn't even pass in 2000, let alone 2022. Jesus Christ, it's all Hisotensoku. 4 episodes of painfully bland exposition built up to the fight. It's like witnessing a slow-motion train wreck. Forgettable politicians and heroes from throughout the world have come together to spout exposition. Ugh. Okay. Where am I? In traditional Shield Art Shield Art Online fashion. That's a good one. You know what? That's a good one because that hurts. That cuts deep. And all he did was change the equipment at the beginning. Naofumi and his team of slave girls are too overpowered to lead a compelling boss fight, but the battle is dragged out over multiple episodes. For all the preamble, the war was about as exciting as watching paint dry. To mask the lack of animation, the artist utilized bright lights and cheap visual effects. The brown and green color grading is so overdone that it looks like someone smeared fecal matter over every frame. The longer the show goes on, the more the characters start to look like wax figurines melting in the summer heat. Their facial features appear distorted. Even during still shots, the anatomy seems bizarre. I'm no doctor, but I'm pretty sure your eyes are not supposed to be different sizes. The only thing I can thank for the production is rehiring Kevin Penkin as a composer. Penkin carries the whole show on his back in another top-notch orchestral soundtrack. It fits the tone like a square peg in a round hole, but it's a welcome distraction from the monotony and visual terrorism. Thank you, Haru, for the resub. I like this guy. Now for me, Raphtalia and Philo add a new member to their harem of slave wives, Rishia, a magic user from a noble family. Amazingly, she has even less agency than Raphtalia and Philo and is even more desperate to please Naofumi. I can't believe my eyes when she begged a slave shopkeeper to become Naofumi's slave. In retrospect, I should have expected the rising of the incel hero would continue pandering to the lowest common denominator. Once again, they lampshade the slavery problem by claiming it would make her stronger. Hopefully no one needs me to explain why it is very bad for an anime to argue that men enslaving underage girls is for their own good. Rishia is dead weight aside from her underutilized translating skills. Her character arc peaks when Naofumi utilizes her for misogyny-fueled power that requires him to choke her and call her a whore, which she thanks him for. This can't be real. Surely what I just read is an exaggeration, right? Has anyone actually watched this? Can anyone actually confirm that that's what happened? I'm not gonna go check myself, cause I have, you know, I'm not doing it. But has anyone actually watched this show and can confirm that is indeed what happened? After being introduced, she stares at the screen and vomits her life story onto the unsuspecting audience as if we give a damn. Her flashbacks have a white filter because Shield Hero doesn't trust its audience to have comprehension skills. Unsurprisingly, the only dialogue between Rishia and Raphtalia is to eagerly compete for their master's attention. Meanwhile, Philo's role is blissfully reduced until they figure out a way to generate sympathy by making her a damsel in distress, but the Shield Hero kind. In other words, she gets tortured on screen by sadistic kidnappers. Oh no. I'm not watching the show. The second newly added prominent character is Ost Horai, the familiar of the Spirit Tortoise, but she quickly abandons that role in favor of helping Naofumi. Ost is a guide rather than a person leading Naofumi's party to slay the beast. She never rises above a plot device for all the show's efforts to make us care about her. They've given us a charmless, vapid plot device without a single speck of sympathy, then pleaded with us to worry about when she was put in danger. I mistook her vacant demeanor as enigmatic and wrongly assumed she would be the villain. That role is reserved for a much worse figure. An insufferable vassal hero is the season's non-threatening antagonist, but at the very least, he provides a distraction from the tortoise nonsense. What motivates him? Insanity and sexual sadism. Much of the runtime is wasted chasing Kyo, the comically evil villain, though through an alternate universe. Kyo is also known as the Vassal Book Hero. For the uninitiated, vassal weapons are wielded by heroes who have been chosen to protect the world. You're still reading this, right? From the waves of calamity and guardian beasts, have you fallen asleep yet? Like the Spirit Tortoise. You'll need to check the wiki to fully comprehend the endless list of names, backstories, and convoluted lore. The slideshow animations lend itself perfectly to the monotonous script consulting of one long-winded explanation after another. Speaking of dialogue, it consists of exposition dumps, video game lingo, medieval formalities. If I hear Raphtalia shout Naofumi-sama one more time, I will lose my mind. The second half of the season attempts to start fresh. 7 episodes are wasted in establishing a new setting populated with so many cardboard cutout caricatures you shouldn't even bother memorizing their names. Ultimately, they're irrelevant for the first 30 episodes. The heroes teleport to an alternate universe because no one gives a shit about the original one. One of the other world's cardinal heroes, Kizuna, joins the crew. Her legendary weapon is hilariously lame. A hunting tool that prevents her from attacking humans. Despite being 18, she looks like a 12-year-old. Naofumi immediately nicknames Kizuna Lollyhag because she is not a preteen and therefore too old to join his slave harem. All of the other heroes surrounding Naofumi contain no personality and only exist in terms of their special weapons. There's no character development for the original cast, and these episodes do nothing to build up the overarching plot. Eviscerating Shield Hero to this extent gives me plenty of pleasure, and it would be dishonest to do anything else. It doesn't rise to the level of cheesy enjoyability because it was agonizing in every category. There's nothing here beyond hours upon hours of tedium. Even worse, the studio involved was so certain, so arrogant about the anime's potential that they resorted to a filler episode at the end. The post-credits scene is meant to tease the third season, but it's more like a threat that there's more torture in store. That's good. I like that guy. That's good. Alright. Alright. So Rising to the Shield Hero 2. I'm sticking on things that aired this season right now. So let's see. So what is this? Kawaii dake janai shikimori gun-san. Okay. Alright. These are all not good reviews. But this one's the highest rated. Okay. Shikimori is not just a cutie, somehow found a way to be somewhat original, yet feel incredibly bland and generic. I've watched a lot of romances, and never have I watched a show that relies so heavily on its female lead to a point where everything else in the show is bad. One of the few positives I will say about the show is the color palette is very vibrant and brings light to what feels like a dull show. My main issue with the anime is the message is trying to portray the first 3 episodes, big, tough, popular girl wanting to protect her cinnamon bun boyfriend who refuses to defend himself. This is an infuriating concept to watch as it constantly rehashes the same scenario over and over again with no progression. I don't care if this stops on chapter 99 of the manga. I'm judging the anime, not the manga. The creator could have at least portrayed their relationship in a more genuine, wholesome way. But what I seen was not wholesome. What I seen was a relationship closer to a mother and small child than of a genuine boyfriend and girlfriend. I actually got uncomfortable watching it at some points. Even still, I would give it a somewhat of a pass if other characters in the show were entertaining enough to stick around. They're not. Every side character in the show has about as much personality as a Skyrim NPC. And I'm being generous there because I feel like I'm insulting Skyrim with that comparison. I'll finish it off with a positive. The OP is very good. It's about the only part of the show I enjoyed and had as much fun with the entire first 3 episodes combined, so I'm sorry to anyone who genuinely likes the show, but it was a pretty bad watch. How's the adaptation? 7.76. Huh. Well, at least the manga seems decent. I guess at least the manga seems decent. Alright. I hated this anime. Well, you and everybody else down here. Okay. How long is this one? Oh, it's a short one. The most enjoyment I found out of this was loudly laughing out loud at its predictability. I enjoy anime rom-coms, but not only is this anime the definition of a trope, using all the annoying rom-com tropes seemingly like 15 minutes of times a minute, but the two have no visible chemistry together. The viewer has zero reason to care about anything that's happening. Not only is their unconditional love for each other never explained, but the dude is pathetic and utterly useless. The joke is Shikimori's dependability and acting like a boyfriend, but the joke wears off 10 minutes into the first episode. What are we left with? Nothing. A hollow shell of a rom-com with nothing to call on its own except a really catchy opening song. Take this as a warning to stay away rather than an insightful review. I came into this expecting to really like it and actually found it repulsive and one of the worst anime I've seen in a really long time. Honey Jet Coaster. Chat, feel free to look that up and let me know if it's as good as they claim. They say it's good. I don't deny that. I don't doubt that. Okay, what about what's this? The greatest demon lord is reborn as a typical nobody. Okay. Whoa! As the most powerful entity of all time, the demon lord Vatos thinks life is a big fat snore. When he takes matters in his own hands and decides to reincarnate, he calibrates his magical strength to be perfectly average, but there's no way he could have predicted that everyone in the modern world would be weak as hell, which means he is totally overpowered once again. Reborn under the name Ard, he has ladies fawning over him, the royal family begging him to become the next king, and an ex-minion insisting on killing him? But Ard has a one-track mind, and he won't stop at anything to achieve his ultimate goal. What the fuck was his ultimate goal that he decided to turn himself into a normal human? What the hell? Just another try-hard wannabe? I know it's Voldigoat. I'll try not to waste anybody's time and tell you straight up you shouldn't watch this. He looks like Kirito clone. It's scared of girls. Takes 2 episodes to gather harm despite being scared of girls. His only real adversary is himself, and yep, they decided to roll with that. Every single woman in this anime is over-sexualized for no reason. He trains his harem, and it turns out they never use said training in the later episodes anyway and act as damsel in distress. Any character which isn't Ard or Ard clone is one-shot kill. Villain or supposed mastermind acts like a dumbass, get instant killed. The main character has zero personality, yet we're supposed to relate to him because he is guilt-ridden. XD. Music is really, really bad. OP just blasts your eardrums off. Animation is bad as well. No effort put in any fight scene. Don't waste your time on this. Just like I don't bother writing a proper review, the show didn't even deserve that much. He's right, you know. That guy's review was so riddled with errors that I was concerned. But at the end there, he actually specified why he didn't bother going back and fixing the review. It didn't even warrant that. I am just so baffled at why shit shows like these continue to exist. It felt like within 2 years we went from the pinnacle of greatness that is Mao Gakuin no Futekjosha. I don't know what that is. Chat, what is that show? You know it? I'm still eagerly awaiting Season 2's arrival. To the bad that was last season, Shikakuman no Saikyo Kenja. I don't know that one either. And finally, to the worst that is this show, nicknamed Murabito A, that's written by an author that knows enough jack shit about these types of premises to directly cut, copy, and paste settings that weren't already done in earlier works for his first ever work that I don't know why he was greenlit for an anime. And you know what surprised me the most? The fact that all 3 works appeared in Soyetsu around the same time period. 2017 and 2018. But by some evidence, there was a ruse of a 3-way battle in which Demon Lord Reincarnation story would sound better to get an anime adaptation treatment faster. And for that, I'm sure you could already see the result of that. Let me just give you a crass summary of Morabito A, aka the greatest Demon Lord, is reborn as a typical nobody. The MCOP Ard Meteor, aka the Demon Lord Vartos, is equals to Shikakuman's Matthias Gaius What is the show? Hold on. What is the show? Shikakuman. Shikaku. This one? Shikakuman. This got a 6.24. Wait a minute, this one's not good either, is it? It's this guy again! Hold on. At least it's not another Isakai, stupid pre-brain anti-tuber and their bandwagoners. This may be blunt, but this is just plain old power fantasy. The character's just on New Game Plus. The anime is too lazy to even be an Isekai. In every situation, there is a single ass pull. I know this because of my previous life. Hence, trust me, bro. I did this in my previous life. I know this chick from my previous life. I made this shit in my previous life. Hence, it's strong. Now, power fantasies can be great. Many may forget due to their focus on comedy, but One Punch Man is fundamentally a power fantasy that is done fantastically well. Though since some may argue it's more of a satire, that would be correct if you want a better comparison. We must compare it to another anime called The Misfit of Demon King Academy, which is pretty much similar plot and yet manages to breathe fresh air in almost stale power fantasy genre. Why is it so? In a power fantasy where the outcome of the plot is rather clear, the MC will brute force and win anyhow. There needs to be something to look forward to since the story can't be intriguing if every outcome is already clear. That's the characters. Maddie is more of a Kirito clone than any Isekai protag before him. Hell, he even dresses and looks like him. He has the I can do anything and my plot demands it blessing, but is still a shy little virgin who is afraid of the girl's touch. Wow. Anos Volid Goat, on the other hand, is pure badass. He knows his strength, flaunts it, behaves, and feels like royalty. Has the sass and the strength to back it up. Saitama is a hero though, and even without his strength, these main characters are distinguishable even without their strength. Maddie would probably be a mob character if he was weak. The side characters in One Punch Man are actually what's the greatest strength of the show. Wait a minute, what? Am I reading a review on One Punch Man? The story arc and development in Misfit is what makes side characters stand out in this anime. I legit forgot the name of the 2 main girls half the time. I swear they're just that fucking boring. And just exists to confirm and appreciate Maddie's strength. There's one good character, Iris, who immediately became better and more memorable to the main trio, even though she was introduced in the 4th episode. Plot, 3 out of 10. Demon's bad. Humanity now weak. Maddie strong. King now serve Maddie. Maddie save humanity. Girl unzip pants. Iris cute. Good summary. Characters, 4 out of 10. Blondie, Archer Girl, King, Headmaster are just Maddie worshippers. It can be assumed to be the same character. Iris is nice and cute, but that's it. S-Rank Adventure is mildly interesting, I guess. Art and animation, 6 out of 10. The art is bad. The animation is surprisingly decent, but nothing special. As expected, JC stats mediocre is the way to go for them. ED has visually no art other than a couple of nice shots. Iris being cute. OP art is an underwhelming compilation of in-show footage. BA and sound, 5 out of 10. The voice actor of Iris brings out her cuteness rather well. Is quite forgettable, just like the show. Standard walking simulator end with no good art. The song is okay, but the lack of art makes it an instant skip. OP is just more Maddie worshipping. Longtime Power Fantasy fan may like it, but I find it hard to recommend it to other person. The best I can suggest is to watch the first 3 episodes and decide what follows more of the same. Who's Iris? Okay. Iris and the Throat Goat. Enos Voldigoat. Where is he? I don't see... Here's Iris, by the way. The Black Dragon Iris. Not a bad design. No, I'm not gonna watch the show for it. Alright, returning back over here. Wait, what is Anos Voldigode? What is that? Anos Voldigode. What's this guy? The Misfit of Demon Academy. Oh, it's Power Fantasy. Oh, it's my boy! It's Rebel Panda again! What is this show? Hold on. In the distant past, a war between humans and demons brought about widespread chaos and bloodshed. To put an end to the seemingly endless conflict, Demon King Anos Voldigode willingly sacrificed his life, hoping to be reborn in a peaceful future. In preparation for the king's return, the demon race created the Demon King Academy, an elite institution tasked with determining Anos' identity when he reawakens. He reincarnates 2 millennia later, but to his surprise, he soon learns that the level of magic in this world has drastically waned due to his absence. Moreover, when he enrolls in the academy to reclaim his rightful title, he finds out that demonkind remembers him differently. His personality, his deeds, and even his legacy are all falsified, masked beneath the name of an imposter. That lack of common knowledge renders him the academy's outlier, a misfit never before seen in history. Despite these drawbacks, Anos remains unfazed as he sets out to uncover these altering his glorious past. He takes it upon himself to make his descendants recognize that his ruler has finally returned. Alright. How often do you get a good night's sleep? I never get the sleep I deserve. After watching so many bad anime, I stay up all night tossing and turning in bed. A lack of sleep can cause depression, anxiety, weight gain, etc. No sleep medication has helped me. Melatonin, Benadryl, Trazodone, even horse tranquilizers. Nothing worked until now. I finally found the cure for insomnia, and its name is the Misfit of Demon King Academy. Hi, I'm Rebel Panda, and I made it my job to ensure you get a good night's sleep you deserve. This guy cares about my well-being. That's my kind of reviewer. Just turn on an episode of the Misfit of Demon King Academy and you'll feel drowsy in seconds. No anime has made me fall asleep faster since Kenga no Mago. Wait, what's that one? Kenga no Mago. Well, that one's open now. Check that one out. Dude, it's like a fucking... Damn. Where am I? It blends every generic power fantasy anime trope into a single episode. Remarkable. There are no stakes, no one can die, there's infinite plot armor, and the visuals are fucking awful. Magic circles are thrown across the screen with Photoshop, CGI fire is copy-pasted onto a hideous background art, and all the character art is overexposed. The premise has been done hundreds of times, which is what makes it so effective. You'll never need to count sheep again after you watch this. The Demon King Anos Voldigode fought a 2,000-year-old war in a nondescript medieval world, but he became so bored that he let his arch-rival kill him. So relatable! Watching his backstory made me want to die of boredom too! 2,000 years later, Anos is reincarnated as a baby to marry a couple of 14-year-old girls. And they're also his ancestors. Don't bother calling the FBI, they'll just fall asleep too. He's perfect. So of course, he does not develop at all. Even though he murdered thousands of people, he never needed to reconcile that. Thankfully, that didn't forget the most important trope. Every woman irrationally loves him. I can't blame them. Who wouldn't love this man? He's so charismatic, rebellious, kind, confident, handsome, attractive. Oh dear, look at me. I'm in love with Anos too. You deserve a good night's sleep. For the small price of $79.99, you can sleep for 2,000 years, just like Anos. Reduce stress, improve concentration, and get an eternal slumber. Call 1-800-420-ANOS for your very own subscription. If you don't like it, which is impossible because Anos is perfect, we'll give you your money back. Call now and we'll throw in the soundtrack. Free stock music for no extra charge. Side effects may include cringe, drowsiness, and in rare cases. What? As of September 26th, I have been watching The Misfit of Demon Academy for 13 weeks. Now I only watch one episode a week, but it has changed me irrevocably. This anime haunts my vision night after night. All I see is Anos violently slaughtering his classmates with the flick of his finger or a heartbeat. They instantly explode in a burst of blood. Then he reincarnates them. No one ever dies. There are no stakes. Everything that happens in this world gratifies him. Anos even has his own fan club of girls who pray to him like he's a god. Even though his harem of a dozen women have powers, they are useless compared to him. He always saves them. Now I just needed him to save me too. I can't get this shit out of my head. I can't get out of my bed. I'm dependent on this awful anime to function. I thought if I watched more of it, I could make me stay awake, but the more I watch it, the more I wish I could fall asleep. People said this anime is satire because it cuts out all the typical power fantasy bullshit. It doesn't waste time pretending to be deeper than it is, except that it isn't satire. It isn't subverting anything. It's all the same. The main character's overpowered. All the girls love him. There's a tsundere. All the villains are evil for the sake of it. I can't for the life of me understand how someone who disliked Genjin Omago or Isakai with a smartphone would like this. If you want pure power fantasy injected straight into your veins, watch this. You'll love it. Anyone who watches the show with their brain turned on will realize it's fucking garbage. Once being reincarnated, Anos discovers that hybrid demons like him are an oppressed race. They're subservient to pureblood demons. Anos' fan club idol group sing a song to empower the hybrid race to protest their oppressors. Except the hybrids tell the purebloods to know your place, which doesn't combat discrimination. It only replaces it with more racism. Good job, Anos. Voltagoat ended racism with more racism. Anos tried to be funny, but all of his jokes fall flat. He always sounds bored and his face never changes. It's like he's on Full House, and he needs to make a poker face. Everyone loves him, he is endlessly powerful, and he slaughters foes with no effort. He pauses after a one-liner like he's waiting for the audience to applaud or laugh. Whoever wrote this light novel needs not write comedy anymore. I'm sorry your parents never said you're not funny. You unironically wrote a story that congratulates narcissism and racism. This is one of the most shallow, illogical, and condescending anime I've ever watched. Now where's my apology? The misfit of Demon King Academy made me exhausted. My life has been ruined because I sleep so much. I've tried to stop watching, but if I skip an episode, I can't fall asleep for the rest of the week. Attempting to stop watching this cold turkey caused me to feel extreme withdrawal. My heart races, my ears ring, I get constant migraines, and I violently vomit. I feel like worms are chewing through my mind. I cannot describe how much I hate this show. Don't make the same mistake I did. The misfit of Demon King Academy is so bad it will literally rot your brain. Damn. That was great. I'm just glad to be a part of that. Alright, where was I? So this guy loved that show. This guy gave that show a 10. Headstrong personality, sass at about art and mod. These are whips in comparison, meant to play with other harem girls, fingered around in planes, reach as far as wide fantasy demon lords galore. The supporting duo harem girls, the elf Arita Litz and De Orid and succubus Ginifin de Salvin are worse off than Shikakuman's Luria Abab and Alma Lebl. The pair of duos obviously playing the left-right harem side of the MC is just unbearable. God, I miss Eris already. The fun factor of Shikaku. The effect, Mao Gakuin, Necron, twin sisters Misha and Sasha like Anos developed the same type of nonchalant behavior of both light and dark themed characters, and even on their own, their chemistry is much more compelling and enjoyable than the way Shikakuman and Morbido A tried. The show for the direct, similar to close, just miss experience. You should watch the other characters. Let's just say they're write-offs, nothing of relevance even added to the series at all. Also, should be said that Silverlink has become the new house for mindless shit-tier isekai plus maybe many sub-genres adaptations of both the studio and the anime isn't to blame for getting the bulk of the blame because they're just the entities in the Steinman Anime Production Committee that just produce shows the way they recorded the source material. As a result, in-house directors like Mirai and Minato are only ones who are left to delegate this work, even if they know the isekai is shit, the shit sells, so they make the never-ending business proposal just to make sure. Just be sure that Japan doesn't think like everywhere in the world in this bubble will be forever not understand why money and resources spent on shit work like these. Even the OST is quite bland and bad. Oya, Oyashi, and Shosho are by no means bad. Their song repertoires are actually quite good in spots, but the OPED choice make you want to skip through them thoroughly. Like your usual Netflix program, skip intro next episode. When the OP and ED plays, it's the same song dynamics matching to the Demon Lords kind of bewitch you into thinking it's good when it's not. Stop it. Get some help. Wash your eyes from awful works like these. Never touch them for they will convert your mind into low-life neat thinking that your OP is hell. Have women by your side and live a new reincarnated life like nobody else cares. Stay away from the show, you're not missing much, and please, for the love of God, watch Mao Gakuin instead. I refuse to watch that show. This anime is a dumpster fire. All I needed to hear, my guy. So what's this show? Alright. I spilled water on myself. I'm gonna melt now. In the kingdom of Earlshire, Merlin Whirlford was once regarded as a national hero, hailed for both his power and achievements. Preferred a quiet life, however. He secluded himself deep in the rural woods, dedicating his time to raising an orphan that he saved. This orphan is Shin, a normal salaryman in modern-day Japan who was reincarnated into Merlin's world while he was still retaining his pet. As the years, Shin displays parallel talent in both magic and martial arts, much to... On his 15th birthday, however, it becomes apparent that Shin only develops combat skills and nothing else, leaving his blatant social awkwardness, a lack of common sense. I just don't care about any of that. Yay, he's back! He's back! I love this guy! The definition of insanity is repeating the same mistakes and expecting different results. God, I'm tired. Oh, I must have caught this review before he started watching that other show. I'm tired of all these carbon-copied Isakai light novel adaptations like Kenga no Mago, but Japan keeps pumping them out because it's what makes money. I'm tired of the same ubiquitous Isakai truck killing some random asshole before he even gets a single character trait, all for the sake of reincarnating him in an otaku power fantasy wet dream. I'm tired of narcissistic, overpowered protagonists lacking any personality, only existing to be praised and loved by every cardboard cutout character in the show. I'm tired of 12-year-old writing quality. The story jumps from a violent nationwide demon attack, then magic school comedy, then 2 fan service episodes back to back. I'm tired of the boring magic school settings with absolutely no plot other than to find ways to show off how much more powerful the protagonist than everyone else. I'm tired of potentially interesting plot development getting swept under the rug in favor of pointless, unfunny comedy. Meanwhile, everything relevant to the story happens off screen. I'm tired of generic pandering character art indistinguishable from any other isekai adaptation. I'm tired of dozen forgettable side characters sticking to the protagonist like flies on shit. I'm tired of one-dimensional waifus with no difference other than candy-colored hair and the incredibly important breast sizes. There's even a cup size ranking in the opening credits. I'm tired of terribly squeaky-sounding waifu voice acting like the raspy blue-haired bitch. Her breathless and desperate voice made the other generic waifus sound decent. I'm tired of sexual assault used as a threat to the waifu bait, but simultaneously used as an excuse for gross NTR fan service, which is how 2 main female characters get introduced. I'm tired of all the potato tier artwork, cheap flashy effects, and copy-paste magic circles tossed in rather than actual animation. I'm tired of hideous off-model character animation from the very first episode until the last. Eyes distorted like they're melting right off people's faces. Body proportions constantly look off. The shading is non-existent. I'm tired of carelessly tacked on romance with no progression other than the writers forcing the characters together like oil and water until you accept it. Neither of them put effort into the relationship, circumstances just push them together. I'm tired of the same 3 stock background songs played on loop for the entire episodes. Couldn't they have gone $1 over budget and added a few more? I'm tired of overly auto-tuned J-pop openings and ending songs all these shows use. They are indistinguishable from each other. I'm tired of crappy special ending credits worse than the original, like the CGI trauma in episode 6, like they watched the Chica dance from Kaguya-sama, then tried and failed to copy it. I'm tired of anticlimactic scenes that try to make you empathize with a cast of cardboard cutouts who have no personalities. The only introspective character moment happened when the protagonist was mildly bothered by killing a person. I'm tired of watching the same episode every week, always gaining nothing but boredom and frustration. This feeling like 23 minutes on the toilet would have been more eventful. I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm tired. Kengo no Mago makes me so very tired. Watching the same anime with the same fault season after fucking season is driving me insane. One day it will end. One day. I'm tired. Alright, hold on. I haven't checked out the rest of the seasonal anime. Let's see. This show is... I'll actually go over the shows I watched this season. I watched this one, I enjoyed. I watched this one, I enjoyed. I watched this one, I enjoyed this one quite a lot. I enjoyed this one. I was thinking of watching this one and this one. I don't have much interest in this. Or that. I love this one. This one's really good. This one's really good. Paripi Koming. Didn't watch these. I did watch this one. I love this one. This one's really cute. This one's a lot of fun. What's this one? The Executioner and Her Way of Life. Dude. He's everywhere. He's back. Average student Muto Mitsuki suddenly finds himself transported to another realm, summoned by the king of this world for the remarkable power he is supposed to possess. Muto is thrown at what it appears that he lacks a special concept. Moping about, he encounters a priestess named Minuo who explains that Japanese people like him are known as lost ones, and such individuals never fail to have special concepts. Minuo elaborates that she is part of a church that helps abandoned lost ones integrate in society. She invites him to spend the night at her church, where the two can probe the nature of his ability, eventually discovering Muto's special concept is actually incredibly powerful and dangerous. While Muto celebrates, Muto shows her true colors and stabs him in the head, killing him instantly! Muto's goal is not to assist lost ones, rather it's the opposite. Due to 4 infamous incidents where lost ones caused monumental damage, the church has ordered that the foreigners all be assassinated as soon as they are found. Muto eliminated Minuo must next dispatch another lost one summoned by the king, Akari Tokitu. What? Everything about Shoki Shoujo no Virgin Road screams comically bad pseudo-deep isekai to me. An anime that aired last year even did the first so-called first episode twist better. Yet the overall reaction kept saying subversive thriller. But it's like ReZero if ReZero was cheaper, blander, and lacking any depth. Okay. The English title, The Executioner and Her Way of Life, refers to Minuo. The female assassin protagonist who speaks every line like she's a caricature of a lone wolf killer. Her introduction is agonizingly cliche. A mysterious organization recruits a child to assassinate superpowered teenagers. After witnessing the traumatizing impacts of their powers, she vows to prevent history from repeating itself and becomes a ruthless murderer. Her goal is to murder teenagers who have been mysteriously summoned into her fantasy world from modern-day Japan, known as Lost Ones. The Lost Ones arrive with a random superpower called a pure concept that supposedly could lead to a catastrophe if used in the wrong hands. The plot, such as it is, revolves around Minuo's desperate efforts to find a way to kill Akari, a seemingly immortal lost one with the pure concept of time, who she is convinced will be the downfall of humanity. Their chemistry is lighthearted, even though Minuo hides the fact that she wants this girl dead. All the show has in terms of levity is their banter, mostly because Akari mistakes their companionship for mutual attraction. The rest of the show is pure edge, the painfully serious kind, not the trashy fun kind. Oh man. From the beginning, Minuo is a mouthpiece to dump exposition on the unfortunate viewer. The writer arbitrarily added a generic character with the appearance of a standard male isekai hero, but only for her to spout world building at him at the most unnatural way possible. Minuo's role is to speak lines that insert what the writer wants the audience to think before being an actual character. She delivers these lines so seriously that it's funny. Everyone talks like she's except for a few selective oddities. Minuo develops gradually as she struggles to overcome her need to murder lost ones and reconcile with the assassin who conditioned her. The rare time she broke her serious persona to have banter with Akari was actually pleasant. Akari's tongue-in-cheek sense of humor plays off Minuo's straight man act because the writers know to place jokes appropriately. Akari flirts with Minuo, vies for her affection, and asks to go on dates, usually for humor rather than a sincere relationship. The show is undoubtedly at its worst when it separates Minuo and Akari. Although Akari comes off as a shallow comic relief character at first, developments of the show's second half add depth to her personality. After a few convoluted twists, you'll find more to her than meets the eyes. Ultimately, she is a shallow husk of a protagonist who uses a plot device when needed, with little space to grow. The excitement of her time reversal power wears off when you realize it is done exponentially better. In Steins Gate, even ReZero's first core utilizes time travel mechanic much better. She is characterized by laughably melodramatic, overwrought flashbacks, and you would have a more enjoyable time finding another anime to watch than piecing together her lore. This is an extension of the show's larger issue, mistaking poor storytelling with foreshadowing. Rather than hint at mysteries, they deliver the twist first and expect you to be impressed when they reveal the build-up. It's like telling a joke by saying the punchline first. You haven't achieved anything, you just made the story needlessly confusing. Minuo's assassin companion, Momo, is a caricature of a psychotic lesbian. Two words I despise putting beside one another. She's introduced with laser red eyes, only to speak in a moe voice and motorboat Minuo. Cute but unhinged archetypes like Momo are so played out in Executioner. After the third secretly evil moe character, it's clear the author either ran out of ideas or has an obsession with the trope. For most of Momo's screen time, she clings to Menno, hiding in the shadows to tie loose ends. Momo's rival, a rather unconvincing tough-as-nails swordswoman, gives her other things to do, thankfully. There's no thrills to the action unless you count gratuitous viscera for the sake of it entertaining. Blood, gore, children getting diced up, but there's no impact. It's all faux darkness to seem more mature than it is. The creator was seemingly trying to one-up other isekai anime labeled as mature with outlandish blood and gore. I would not remiss if I did not mention the remarkable quality of the visuals and audio. In terms of JC Staff Productions, it's comparable to One Punch Man's second season. Frequently reused animation loops, low detail character designs, and janky CGI monsters. Sakuga cuts are used sparingly, but admittedly the bombastic fight scenes look exhilarating when they try. However, the sound design is exceptionally bad. The little sound effects they include are pleasing. It is as though the audio team ran out of time frequently. I especially love how Minnow could perfectly hear Momo talking outside of a moving train from the inside because they forgot to add wind or distortion. Visual effects such as the sparkling ether dust of the show's magic system has no sound whatsoever. Part of what makes the final episode anticlimactic is the janky CGI that undermines the attempt at grotesque body horror. For all the exposition dumps, the show offers little explanation for the magic system and power scaling. They mention different tiers and assassins offhand but never show how the status affects their powers. Fighters wield giant swords made of light, launch explosions, and throw magic circles every which way. I'd be lying if I said it didn't have its exciting moments, but ultimately the fighting is tensionless. Seconds before death, one of the heroes will inevitably reveal a cheap gimmick magic ability to save themselves, repetitive, predictable, and never as shocking as the author intended. This might feel original if there weren't already 100 violent isekai anime. Instead, it's a derivative of the same story it's attempting to tell. The early 20th century attire juxtaposed with modern technology sets the show apart from a production design standpoint. The Lost Ones influence architecture, design, and technology powered by magic rather than electricity. Don't think too hard about it. Obviously, the writers didn't, because the more you do, the less it makes sense. If you're interested in the people inhabiting the fantasy world, well, you're better off reading the light novels because backstories, politics, and lore are sparse. Shoujo Shoujo no Virgin Road is so heavy-handed and awkward it comes across as a parody. It feels like you're watching the script's first draft because of how the story is told in such an ass-backwards way. There are some redeeming qualities, such as the relatively ambitious production and hints at queer romance, but ultimately they are overshadowed by a shitload of problems. The character talks in cliches and tedious explanations instead of dialogue. It's so self-serious in the face of utterly idiotic writing that it leads to plenty of unintentionally funny scenes. All the plot twists and gratuitous violence where the show's attempt to shock us. The shock factor is what the story was built upon. Truly, it is a lazy attempt at subversion that never found a reason to exist. Interesting. He's the only one that didn't like it. Well, I mean, the rating speaks for itself, I suppose. What else we got? We got... That's a high rating. It's soccer. Ooh. The Dawn of the Witch. 6.3. Although he attends the Royal... There's only 8 episodes. 8 episodes? What? Bro. What happened? Oh, wait, no, there's 12. They just stopped. They just stopped. They just stopped, that's all. Huh. The Grimoire of Zero, I don't know what that is. Oh, these are... Huh. I've heard of that, I think. I'm not gonna touch it if it's based on something I don't know. I feel like I've heard of that show, though. Daimon was alright. It didn't really go anywhere, though. Surprised this has a high rating. I'm not gonna say this is bad, because I don't know what it's like, but just looking at these characters' faces and head shapes, I want no part of it. What do we got down here? Heroines run the show, the unpopular girl, and the secret task. Oh. Wow. Reviews are mediocre, but it has a bad last episode. Classic. Fucking classic. What's this? In the Heart of Konichi Tsubaki. 9, 10, 6, 8. Huh. I'm impressed when the reviews are positive for these shows that seem to have less ratings. It makes you wonder who's rating it and who's reviewing it, right? Anyway, it looks kind of... I don't know. This used to have a very bad rating. This one. I think this is a short series. Oh, wow, it's full length? Oh, shit. Huh. Skip it. Shockingly positive reviews. I don't know, I think the character design looks fine, but its rating was like really low. But the reviews are kind of like saying it's pretty good. Maybe I'll check it out. Faye's Adventure stars Carla, a dark elf cleric who's invested too much in her insulting skills, and Elvin, a swordsman who's put up with her antics. Sounds simple enough. Yeah, you know what? I'll probably check that out. No Panda reviews, so it's good. No, you know what? I'll probably check that out in sometime. I don't know. It's weird. I used to have a 5. Now here's something with a 5. Black Rock Shooter got a sequel, and it just did not do well. Oh man. Some people just don't care about these shows. I don't know what Black Rock Shooter is. Where did you go? Never has that line been more true. I guess the adaptation definitely evoked the line from the song, but destroyed everything else. I really don't feel like this is fair to call it a BRS story, as it feels really a subpar light novel, which it was. It only got greenlit by attaching itself to the BRS identity. None of these characters' plot or setting is part of BRS, and as a consequence, none of it feels like it is. The show is an absolute edgelord nightmare of mediocre writing. In early episodes, it tries to be best to be gritty and dark, throwing around copious curses, death, and rants about sex, as well as repeated on-screen rape. None of these serve any purpose other than trying to establish this is edgy, but once it goes away in the second half, I found myself missing it because of desperate attempt at shock value. While crude and unnecessary, was still more entertaining than the run-of-the-mill second half plot full of the same tropes and archetypes acted out by characters with no likable traits or interesting personalities. Again, despite being called Black Rock Shooter, most characters and premises in the story are entirely new. And maybe I would have been slightly more forgiving if they weren't trying to milk marketability from the heyday of late 2000s anime. What the story adds sure isn't good, but if it tried to stand on its own, maybe it would have been forced to do something interesting. Granted, the characters we do take from BRS are sort of void of anything that originally made them likable, to the point that we even renamed them based on tarot cards, since Strength was already a tarot card. Not only is it weird that I want to drag an IP through the dirt for clout, it's even weirder to then not even call the lead character her own name 90% of the time. And in universe, the justification is equally dumb, saying that the Emperors of Death are passable names for orphan children. Again, there's just no valid reason for change regardless of the quality. The show is CG, which does knock it down a lot in people's eyes. In its defense, CG is completely passable, and the weaker parts are masked by fog and dim lighting like a Marvel movie. That being said, the designs themselves are completely average at best, with nothing standing out or interesting. And the redesigns for the established characters are downright criminal. When Black Rock Shooter, Dead Master, and Strength had their intros, I couldn't help verbally crying, "What have they done to you?" Redesigns aren't foreign to this franchise, as it has a lot of fandom power in its prime, but the problem is that its designs are downgrades, both visually and in expressing character. The music commits the taboo of disregarding the old OP. Yes, it plays in the final credits, but that is to be expected, and is a slap in the face being attached to this nonsense. And what replaces it but an unoriginal butt rock? I enjoy hearing ZAQ for the first time in a while, but the song shouldn't be attached to Black Rock Shooter. The OST reminded me of forgettable Marvel movies to the point I was convinced I heard some Disney Marvel copyrighted sound effects. This could entirely be possible considering Disney was involved, and this was exclusive to their streaming service. God, I can't imagine the child stumbling upon the edgelord's first episodes after watching Lion King or something. Did Disney not see the script before greenlighting this? Are you serious? This shit's on Disney Plus? Okay. I had many problems with both other adaptations of Black Rock Shooter, but as early as 5 minutes into the show, I was apologizing to Mari Okada for being so harsh. For all its flaws and weird choices, it still felt more like BRS and much more to appreciate. Those adaptations had heart and understood the show needed to stand on its strength of emotion. This story feels like a military otaku grabbing figures and smashing them together. With this iteration, there's nothing to appreciate or take away other than the I guess the bragging rights to have seen the true train wreck of the franchise that was a mistake from earliest conception to completion. The voice cast does their best to inject some humanity and their already confident choices or movements if you watch closely. But I'm sure much of the staff also tried their best, but this was never going to work no matter how much effort was put in, and many of the decisions made it only hurt it more. Damn. RPG Fudo-san. Holy moe blob. Hold on, Jun says it's good. Hold on, Jun says it's good. In the world at peace 15 years after the defeat of the Demon Lord, a newly graduated mage named Kotone Kazairo moves to Dali, the royal capital, the city kingdom of Actus, to begin a new chapter in her life. To find a place to settle, a 16-year-old goes to a real estate firm called Rent Plan Guide, RPG. There she meets its employers, the Pragmatic Pure Rufuria, Tombushware, Rakira, and adorable demi-human Fa. Coincidentally, Kotone is also to work at RPG Real Estate and wastes no time learning about business from her co-workers. With many housing options available to suit the varied essentials and device customer pool, RPG Real Estate strives to deliver the perfect match to client-specific needs. It's not always an easy task, even so Kotone and her colleagues are determined to bring smiles to the face of the patrons one at a time. Wait a minute. Oh, it's called RPG Real Estate. I completely missed that. You know what? I might check that out. Huh. Cute girls doing cute things. Yeah, focus on cute girls doing real estate. It's above average. Please note there's excessive fan service this season. Borderline 8. Huh. You know what? That premise kind of interests me. Just a little bit. Maybe just a little bit. I didn't process the name of this at all. RPG Real Estate? That's weird. Maybe I'll check that out. Love All Play. Oh boy. Love All Play. 6, 4, 7. Not a lot of anything in this one at all. I guess you gotta look at the ones that are highly viewed, right? Fanfare of Adolescence. Shin Ikotosen. Oh god, what are these? 3, 8, 8, 5. 13 episodes. It's about horse racing. Oh man, I don't care. I don't know what this is. Adaptation? Oh, that doesn't look safe. What? What do you mean direct? What the hell is going on here? Sequel? Prequel? Oh god. It just keeps going. Why are there so many OVAs? Where's the show? How can this show be going on for so long? Bro! Oh, I found it! I found it! What the fuck is going on here? The Kanto region... who cares? It looks like a bunch of... It's loosely based on the infamous Chinese novel Romance of the Three Kingdoms. What the fuck? What? What the hell? Yeah, I can tell it's ecchi. That's obvious from just looking at it. I've lost the desire. These shows are less viewed, so yeah, these ones are lower on the spectrum regardless. But that's alright. Watch as I click Spy X Family. Hey look, it's him again. Spoilers? I don't want spoilers. He only gave it a 7 though. Unbelievable. Can't believe I would support this man. No, I'm gonna hang out on the pandas reviews though. Welcome to my profile. It's a good profile. I want to be a slave to the shield hero. There's just no way that's a screenshot. There's just no way that's a screenshot. Reviews 126. Here we go. I actually wondered about this one. Did anyone watch this, by the way? I saw this and I was actually very interested in it because I'm not against golf. I've never seen a golf anime before. The art looks good. 13 episodes. Huh. Whoa. See, that's a good review. That seems kind of fun. I might check that out. It's great, but mild ending. I'll probably check it out. Playlist is in order? No, it's randomized. Oh, what the? Why did it de-randomize itself? Huh? I have no idea when it did that. I didn't touch it. I swear I didn't touch it. I didn't notice. I did not notice, no. I wasn't paying that much attention to it. But I don't know why the playlist did that, because it was randomized. It was random perfectly fine the whole time. Why would I assume that the randomization was, because it was playing fucking Hiso Tensoku, right? I don't know. I don't know. It was random until it wasn't. That's so weird. Yeah, I'll probably watch this. Spy X Family. Kaguya. Oh, he's here. Skeleton Knight in Another World. Oh, I forgot to click this one, didn't I? One day, a gamer played video games until he fell asleep. And when he woke up, he found himself in the game world as a skeleton equipped with the powerful weapons and armor of his avatar, but stuck with his frightening skeletal appearance. Ark has to find a place for himself in this new fantastical land. All his hopes for a quiet life are dashed when he crosses paths with the beautiful elven warrior set on journey in a full conflict adventure. Skeleton Knight in Another World is another shitty Overlord clone with an added creep factor. All the villains are sadistic rapists and murderers. For the first minute of the last episode, the excessive sexual assault scenes are drawn like sexy fan service and framed as titillation for men. It's disgusting, awful, and uncomfortable to watch because it's grotesquely fetishistic. Fuck that word. And does nothing but remind you that creators don't care about victims. Anime is infamous for sexualizing rape to appeal to the lowest common denominator rather than portraying it as it is, a brutal, life-altering crime. But it's entertainment! No, it's creepy and it's lazy writing. Every female character, even the ones with swords, is victimized or threatened with sexual assault. The vast majority of the plot is repeatedly spent rescuing enslaved elf girls wearing nothing but tattered clothes, filling the whole anime with its constant glorification of sex as violence. The way they dehumanize everyone except for the dull protagonist gives the impression that no one else matters. Ark is another average isekai hero who leads the generic plot, which is just one predictable encounter after another. He is merely a collection of isekai cliches posing as a hero, a gamer trapped in his favorite role-playing game. Girls fall in love with him for no reason. He is dense as a boulder, overpowered, and immortal. At least I can say he is not a pervert. When his busty companion inevitably attempts jumping on his bones, literally, he rejects her. This is not a harm despite how many boobs throw themselves at Ark, but his utter lack of personality traits makes him the perfect vehicle for a sexually frustrated viewer to live vicariously through. Despite his unusual appearance, he's such a lifeless protagonist. Any attempts at tongue-in-cheek jokes fall flat. Rather than delivering exposition through worldly internal monologues alone, he speaks aloud in his childish voice, confusing everyone around him, and then quickly returning to his gritty mercenary voice. They copied this gag from Overlord, and it's never funny. The entire script is devoid of originality. It prioritizes tension despite scenes and fan service over establishing backstories, developing its epic characters, or building its unimaginative world. You can predict the outcome of every fight because they only exist to show how cool the skeleton is. They even fail at that simple goal because the art is mediocre, and the animation is as dynamic as a slideshow. Aside from Arc, the character designs are indistinguishable from other copy-pasted isekai fodder. Arc undermines the few unique action scenes by intruding to explain concepts that we witness and sort ourselves. We can't be trusted to see wolves attacking Arc using clone because we are simply too idiotic, or at least the creator thinks their audience is mindless, sexually frustrated men with minuscule attention spans. Any typical fan service is overwhelmed by viscerally misogynist moments of fetishized violence. The frame lingers on women's cut-up bodies, torture, and sadistic punishments for no reason other than for your enjoyment. It ogles the woman as they suffer and expects you to like it. That is the anime's real moneymaker. Its appeal has nothing to do with the Skeleton Knight in another world because the superficial title is nothing but marketing bait. I can understand the morbid curiosity to build a train wreck as vile as this one, but there is no payoff. Only misery. Skeleton. Nya, bone, nya. Ho, ho, ho. Oh. Oh. Oh, he's got a bad review of Komi Season 2. Oh. Hold on, what about the first season? Alright, let's get it. Let's get it. Here we go. This is a show I've watched. Ready? Here we go. I'm gonna see how's he gonna fuck me up. Let's go. Komi Can't Communicate is a comedy about a 15-year-old girl with extreme social anxiety who attempts to make friends. It fluctuates between mildly entertaining and one of the most unfunny comedy anime I've seen in my entire life. Komi begins the show with the goal of make 100 friends. This premise becomes irrelevant when you realize everyone is magically drawn to her for some reason. Everyone in this high school finds her irresistibly attractive. She quickly becomes a passive protagonist shortly after meeting her second friend. Her goal no longer motivates the plot. Instead of making 100 friends, she should have filed 100 restraining orders because these students are absolutely insane. In the first episode, the recurring, completely unnecessary narrator warns that the school is full of weirdos, creeps, miscreants, but they're far worse than she made them sound. Everything the narrator says reiterates what we've already seen, adding no comedic value. There's a wide variety of appalling, cliched archetypal characters who hover around her like a swarm of bloodthirsty mosquitoes, stalkers, psychotic lesbians, and more creeps. Komi's first friend is Tadano, who sits next to her in class. He makes it his job to help her form a friend group by communicating with her via writing because her anxiety prevents her from talking. The romantic feelings between them progress at a snail's pace, but hey, it's better than nothing. Their relationship is wholesome and unique, aside from a few weird comments from Tadano. The first red flag was when he described her to the audience. Her skin is pure white, her hair is smooth, she smells good. Dude, can you turn down the creep factor a bit? Honestly, Komi-san would be a decent slice of life if you removed everyone but Komi and Tadano. You get a show like Teasing Master Takagi-san without teasing and replace Takagi with knockoff Rei Ayanami. But then they threw it all at these god-awful stereotypical characters that do nothing but drool over Komi like blossoming sex offenders. You know what? I'm going to stop him right here for a moment. And I have to say, he's not wrong. I enjoyed what I watched. But I think the worst part about Komi-san is a bunch of the side characters are just so over the top that they are obnoxious. But he's right. If the show was just Komi and Tadano, it would be pretty good. I think it'd be pretty good. Creeps and weirdos from Komi's high school fawn over her so much that it crosses a line into sexual harassment territory. One of the lesbians tried to make Komi eat her sausage, and I want to ask the author, what the fuck were you thinking? Why would you add raunchy sex gags in a wholesome slice of life? Another girl lasciviously... Oh god, I can't read that word. Lasciviously pleads for Komi to abuse her, which is just her misunderstanding Komi's anxiety is disgust. We're not even at the bottom of the barrel. Some of Komi's stalkers kidnap Tadano because he's getting too close to her for her liking. It's like I was suddenly watching an episode of Mirai Nikki, except everyone was a yandere. Then as if nothing happened, everyone went back to being besties. It wasn't funny when Kazuya stalked Chizuru and Rent-A-Girlfriend, and it's not funny now. The way to make stalking humorous, if it's even possible, is to humiliate the stalker, then attempted to do so with an ironic sight gag in episode 2, while Tadano followed Komi. Right behind him was a sign that read, "Watch out for stalkers," and passers-by proceeded to mock him. The side characters who aren't bizarre, homophobic tropes, or mentally ill are simply annoying. Your enjoyment will depend on whether or not you think yelling is funny. Audio-visually, the presentation accomplishes very little to elevate the underwhelming sense of humor. Oh. I don't get why people say this anime is great animation. The studio blew the budget on the OP art in the first 2 episodes. The character designs are barely animated besides a few motion tweens, slight movements, and lip flaps. Aside from the opening, it is very drab to look at. There's only a handful of ways the adaptation takes advantage of the animation medium, such as adjusting the aspect ratio during flashbacks. There are a handful of clever transitions in the second episode, using an analog rewind effect to portray multiple awkward conversation attempts is a genius idea, but underutilized. A real problem was how they simply put manga text boxes on the screen a lot of the time, but then they used text boxes for everything else. Perhaps this would have worked in an animated comic if they were all translated at all, but they did not translate much of the text in every version I watched. Another gag comedy that lacked impressive animation was Saki-K, except when Komi-san's jokes failed to land. Saki-K's rapid pacing and excellent comedic timing kept it fresh and hilarious. Often the jokes left me thinking, that's it, good anime gag comedies employ a loud bang or crash in sync with a joke punchline. Komi-san has those, but frequently they're much too soft, mismatched, or flat out missing. More elegant directing and sound design aside, Saki-K had way better material to work with thanks to overtop personalities and vast supporting cast. Hold on. Saki-K. Saki-K. Oh, that show. I know this show. I've heard of it. It's a lot of episodes. 5 minutes per episode. Insane ratings. Where am I? On the other hand, Komi-san is perhaps the worst side character of any comedy anime I've ever seen, and I've watched the depths of the genre. Najimi is the side character I'm most conflicted on. They identify as a male or female, whatever they want, because they're gender fluid. Part of their running joke is that they're actually a boy, even though they look like a girl. All I ask is to let trans characters be funny on their own merits, rather than relying on unfunny 2012 trans panic jokes. In the second episode, a brutish man grabs Najimi and threatens to sexually assault them. All this is played off as a joke. Najimi is portrayed as manipulative in how they trick people with their gender, exploitive of Komi's kindness, and sexualized with fan service. It's such a horrible example because of the only gender-fluid character in the show. There's no surprise the fandom debates what their true gender is because the author treats being trans as a joke. One of the only funny jokes Najimi is associated with is when they found communication in speech textbooks under Komi's bed. The gag works because it relies on the funny parts of their personality, not mocking trans people. I don't know anyone who has anxiety so bad it prevents them from speaking personally. However, I know it's not uncommon for people with social anxiety. We're back in UFO, by the way. For fuck's sakes. Okay, I fixed it. Where was I? Learned ASL, but part of the appeal here is watching Komi struggle with communicate for laughing at times. It is painfully relatable to see her dread awkward social interaction, like worrying how to tell someone they have food on their face. Sadly, this author is not concerned with alleviating Komi's anxiety, educating the audience, or portraying her disability in any way resembling reality. Throughout the show, she becomes slightly better at communicating, but it's hardly a driving force of the plot. They can fix this glaring issue by making Komi the narrator, or perhaps the main character rather than Tadano. She may be non-verbal, but she's full of thoughts. Why not let us hear what she's thinking? Movies about deaf and non-verbal people have used the storytelling tactic. It would help the audience empathize with her, see her as a real person instead of an artificial waifu figurine manufactured to be laughed at and pitied. There are a ton of better comedy slice-of-life animes you should watch instead of Komi-san. Here's a few to start with. Chromedy High School, that's a good one. Kaguya-sama, that's a good one. The Disastrous Life of Saki-K, I haven't watched it myself, but it seems pretty good. And Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun, that one's fantastic as well. The premise is tone-deaf, the comedy is painfully unfunny, and the romance is stagnant. It lacks a distinctive style, a visual spectacle to be worth watching the surface-level entertainment, just as I don't get why the vast array of awful characters annoy Komi so much. I don't get why people love Komi but can't communicate. And then, we're here. I owe you all an apology. My first review of Komi Can't Communicate did not do it the justice it deserves. I did not address what was distinctly wrong with Komi. What's wrong with Komi-san? Shallow characterization aside, her problem is that she is affected by severe social anxiety and no one takes that seriously. Every episode begins the same. The narrator will cut in to tell us what a communication disorder is. Her definition is communication disorders cause difficulties in communicating with others. If that reads like gibberish, it is. Let's not research mental disorders for a show that preaches about anxiety and in turn creates a defensive portrayal of anxiety. Komi's perspective is reduced to close-ups of one vacious expression. Or vacant, I don't know. Not every anime will have accurate portrayals of mental disorders, but you'd expect effort and believability at the very least when it's the center of the show. The writers pay lip service to mental disorders and then dodge the issue by turning Komi into a gibberish-speaking chibi caricature. The show's humor more frequently comes at Komi's expense. Everyone misunderstands her. Even cats and children are afraid of her because of the anxious demeanor. Her inability to communicate causes her misfortunes, such as dropping a pencil and being unable to ask for help. Played for laughs. Similarly, she cannot voice her discomfort. Particular creep attempts to force her into sexual situations. I can't emphasize enough how awful this is. It's vacuous. Okay. Despite including a fair bit of drama this season, Komi-san never articulates how his titular character's disorder affects her mental health and vice versa. Her peers treat her as flawless, and the show intends you to view her as an angel. That's why no one comments on the expectations for her to be perfect. Like a hollow porcelain doll. Oh, penis. The emotional turmoil caused by social anxiety in high school is a compelling idea that could have covered. Handling properly, it's right with opportunities for cringe comedy. Watch Welcome to the NHK for a better example, but that instead glorify communication disorders and make stalking jokes. It's hard not to see Komi's communication disorder as a gimmick and superficial quirk. It is a blatant means to make her seem like an original, thoughtfully written character that silently gazes through silent gazes drawn with the expert attention to detail. Komi's mother notes her daughter is afflicted with something, yet she never attempts to help her. She could have gotten a speech therapist, yet she ignores the problem and says girls her age are so weird. No, it really is your fault. I know what it's like for people around you to not take your mental disorders seriously. It's maddening, not cute and wholesome. There are flickers of life in the Komi and Tadano relationship, but only despite the various other ensemble pieces. As I mentioned in my review of the first season, there was a creepy aspect of the relationship that is thankfully gone now. The vignettes of saturating interactions between the couple are pleasant, like Komi dropping her pencil in class and Tadano sparing her the embarrassment of a teacher asking for help, purposely dropping his. Halfway into the season, a self-contained narrative allows time for Komi and Tadano to be alone when he falls ill. She takes care of him, though it's a generic story beat that almost every romance anime utilizes. It's pleasant. The goal to make 100 friends is practically an afterthought, replaced with a slow-paced, cliched anime. In typical anime rom-com fashion, right before the friendship blossoms into romance, a contrived plot device prevents any development. The little progress made through this core is minimal, however, romance was never the primary purpose. It was always about the side characters, just as much as Komi. Fan favorite characters return this season, such as the Stalkers 1 through 5, Boob Woman, Competitive Girl, Shunibyo Caricature, and Perverted Males. A new recurring gag about 4 perverted guys who sit in a circle at school and imagine dating their female classmates. These sequences pop up at random, serving no comedic purpose. They only exist for the viewer to vicariously live through them, adding to the bullshit quota you must endure to reach the comedy. You can skip those scenes and lose nothing. The rest of the side cast continues to fight for Komi's attention, breathing heavily, exasperated panting, and slobbering at the sight of her. And of course, Yamai, who exists as a reminder of why I would never recommend Komi-san to any normal person. Even though she's in every episode, she only gets worse and actually has negative character development. Yamai drools at her desk dreaming of Komi's panties, leaning into every homophobic stereotype about lesbian women. Suddenly, she briefly realizes Komi is more than an object of her sexual desire. The show's attempts to make us empathize with Yamai are almost as disturbing as when she snaps pictures of Komi's panties. Immediately after her epiphany, she says the creepiest line written in anime: "I'll finally be inside Komi." Surely it's among the worst lines her voice actor spoke, and she says it more than once. It's a marvel why they chose one of her scenes for the best Sakuga cut. Speaking as someone who suffered through 2 seasons of Yamai, I suggest you skip these parts too. Komi-san continues to spawn more oddball characters to keep the gimmick of a quiet girl in a school full of weirdos from growing stale. A narcissistic boy, a pushover, a short-tempered girl, and a tough-as-nails-looking shy guy, to name a few. None of them add a point to empathy or humor that the show hasn't done before, but a couple were at least better than the horde of weirdos collected from the first season. I didn't mind Katai, the friendly guy often mistaken for a delinquent, because his recurring joke wasn't centered around obsessing over Komi. He was simply good pals with Tadano. While his presence is brief, the girls with the short fuse is quite relatable for how easily frustrated she gets by daily misfortunes. Both of these students still idolize Komi, albeit less creepy. Every issue I have of the first season's visual persists in this one, especially the annoying manga text boxes placed right on the screen. Artistically, there's a drastic downgrade from the first season. A handful of Sakuga cuts pop up once in a while, but it was clear that OLM had outsourced certain parts in the subpar art quality and lack of animation. A few notable animation glitches stood out here and there, but if you want a collection of meme-worthy, poorly drawn faces, watch the 10th episode. The Valentine's Day episode would have been the highlight of the season had it not been for the massive quality drop-off. As for the soundtrack, it's recycled. Despite the calming melodies, the repetition lessens its relaxing effect. Although the opening and ending are solid, they don't compare to the first season's exquisite themes. From a visual standpoint, it's noticeably worse than the better spring comedy sequel Kaguya-sama, which is far more varied in dynamic shots, fluid character animation, and detailed background art. One addition I appreciated was the post-credit scene at the end of most episodes. It's a bonus joke that's easygoing rather than mean-spirited. Still, it boggles my mind how many consider Komi-san the gold standard of comedy anime. Was Komi-san's second season improve on the first? Oh, not really. It's better in some areas, such as the subtle romantic development, and a downgrade in others, like the worsening side characters and declining production values. If you like the first season, you'll probably enjoy this one. Everyone else is not worth a second chance. Ho ho. That's fun. Here's that one I wanted to watch. A remarkable display of incompetence in animation and writing. Tomodachi Game is a perfect example of everything wrong with psychological horror today. The first sign that something is horribly wrong is the introduction of the main characters. Each one has a freeze frame to display their name at the start. When you think the writing couldn't get any lazier, they add a synopsis of their personality, weakness, and relationships. I wouldn't be watching the show if I wanted to read a wiki page. The main cast is a group of 5 archetypal high school friends. 3 angsty guys and 2 girls defined by trauma. The girls are utilized for often deplorable fan service and to motivate the men. Kicking off the anime is a theft. Their class savings for a field trip have disappeared. Soon after, the 5 friends are suddenly kidnapped. Upon waking up in this strange place, a creepy robot mascot introduces himself as Mamban and enthusiastically tells them they're in the Tomodachi Game. He elaborates that they will have to play a series of kids' games to pay off a costly debt given to them by a traitor in their group. It should take 5 seconds to realize these games are engineered to tear friendships apart, but it takes hours for them to realize because the dialogue is primarily spent on dumping a metric ton of exposition. Explaining each game's rules, getting taunted by the obnoxious mascot, and monologuing their strategies. The script consists only of a tedious back and forth between unbearable characters. Though the show would like you to believe the protagonist, Yuichi, is a cold and calculated genius with a method to his madness, he often comes off as an unhinged idiot pretending to be smarter than he is. Plot contrivances and loopholes are the only reason he gets away with his half-baked strategies. Yuichi is engineered for the viewer to live vicariously through him. His sociopathic behavior has minimal repercussions. It simplifies complex social dilemmas and hardly invites any moral discussion. At the drop of a hat, he flip-flops between earnest and psychopathic. Why these kids were friends is the real mystery. Tomodachi Game is only a mystery in the sense that the author works backwards in many parts to explain the absurd plot twists. Not through craft or tension after trying to dazzle us with an unexpected twist. Yuichi rewinds his intellectual strategy to explain everything. One of Tomodachi Game's favorite gimmicks is starting from the end of an episode. They bait you with the result and then tediously detail the play-by-play. Unless you're invested in seeing a pretentious kid outsmart a pack of stereotypical teenagers, you'd be better off doing something more enjoyable, like watching paint dry or eating a bowl of nails. Occasionally, the show pauses to cross-cut between the game itself and as a group of unknown women in a security room. The women watch the game while obnoxiously narrating what we can see with our own 2 eyes. Manban runs the game himself, so the security room serves no functional purpose. The only exists to spoon-feed plot twists and explain character dynamics like we're blaming the zombies who consume every shitty anime without caring about quality. Speaking of quality, the visuals look like an amateur studio's first anime made on a shoestring budget. Due to rushed artwork, the freakish facial expressions during intense scenes look like cheap imitation of Kakeguri or Gambling Apocalypse Kaiji. Meanwhile, Manban looks like the artist took him out of a PlayStation 2 game because of his ridiculous CGI model. The soundtrack is almost as remarkable as the art, not for making the story better, but because it creates as much tension as elevator music. It's incredible how generic and repetitive it is. I'm in awe of how little effort went into the sound editing because every scene must fight through the awful music to reach the audience. The profoundly confusing music choices make the mismatched tone even more confused. I couldn't blame the composer if they were purposely sabotaging the intellectual bankrupt story. All bark and no bite summarizes Manban, who simultaneously manages to be a threat and toothless antagonist. Repeatedly, he reminds the students about the unfathomable amount of money at stake, because it's such a lame consequence. How will the debt be granted to them upon completing the game? How will they be forced to repay the debt? Any explanations they do give are vague at best. There's little reason to care without solid consequences established right off the bat. Aside from the PG-13 violence, Manban's anti-violence rule prevents blood or gore most of the runtime, which would serve a psychological thriller like this quite well, except the mechanics of each game don't create stakes. Instead, they focus more on petty drama in the group and the monetary repercussions of losing. If psychological warfare is what you're looking for, you're shit out of luck because these mind games wouldn't even outsmart a kid. Though Death Note may have inspired it with all the mind games, it lands closer to its inbred cousin, Platinum End. The thrill comes from wondering what will happen next, even though technically for most of the anime's runtime, absolutely nothing is happening. Concepts are presented, but it's unclear how they affect the story. There's no explanation for what should be explained. Like, how is the game being live streamed? Why are viewers' reactions affecting the game results? The issue with the writer throwing random shit at the wall to see what sticks is obvious. Nearly every anime needs internal logic, a sense, and the anime's rules feel like a sturdy foundation. Without internal logic, everything is just pointless. Later into the show, an entirely new crew of less interesting high school students entered the limelight. Yet again, name tags and personality descriptions introduce them. A shining example of the laziest character writing the anime offers. But why should we care about these people? Who knows? Why are new characters getting added when the original ones are as flat as pancakes? By the time the last game finishes, it's hard to care. Initially, it appears that Tomodachi Game is just another pretentious psychological anime about a lone genius trapped in a world of morons where everyone misunderstands him. Then it rapidly spirals into a pit of idiotic narrative turns, astoundingly lazy character development, and stuffed with so many plot contrivances it's almost funny. The result is a confused, awkward, tedious state in limbo. Is Tomodachi Game good? No, it certainly is not. I wanted it to be a thriller, but it unintentionally became a comedy. It wasn't even funny enough to be worth watching ironically. Huh. Thank you, Sakuya. What is Platinum K? Or Platinum End? Fuck. Ever since he lost his family in an explosion, Miyari Kakahashi has been living a life of pain and despair. Every day he endures abuse at the hands of the relatives who took him in. As his anguish steadily chips away at his will to live, he is eventually pushed to the brink. Prepared to throw it all away, he stands on the edge of a precipice and takes the leap. However, instead of falling to his death, he enters a trance where he meets a winged being who claims to be his guardian angel. What? Named Nase, the angel offered him 2 priceless abilities and convinces him to go on living. When Mirai experiences the marvel of his new powers firsthand, he gets a taste of the freedom that was locked away from him for so long. Armed with Nase's gift, Mirai is flung into a showdown with 12 other individuals, one of which will be chosen to become the next god. In stark contrast to when he wanted to end his life, Mirai is now prepared to do whatever it takes to protect his bleak chance at happiness, lest it be wrenched from his grasp. Ever? This is the Death Note? Oh, I can see the art style and the animation. That's just black-haired blight. Misunderstood. Spoilers in the mark section. In my experience, anime fans have absolutely no conception of what good or bad directing looks like. To most of them, directing is just a buzzword they can throw around in forums as a complaint or an insult towards a show they have nothing intelligent to say about, hoping anyone who reads their posts will be similarly ignorant and think they actually said something substantive. Indeed, what most people like or dislike a show specifically because it was well directed or poorly directed, they often attribute their like or dislike to other factors. 2 of the best anime films ever made, K-On! The Movie and Tamako Love Story, are both held in significantly higher regard than the TV shows from which they derived. Some of this adoration must be attributed to the fact that many people who didn't like the shows and would therefore dislike the films similarly would not stick around to watch the movies. But in these cases, the increase in praise is significant enough for other factors to be at work. Whenever you ask around or read critique, many would say that the films are better because they're better written, tell more satisfying and emotional stories, or are simply better produced and have more musical quality animation, movie quality animation. When the TV shows don't, but both of these films have the exact same creative staff as the shows, and while the animation quality is certainly stepped up, I refuse to believe any majority in the anime community has enough appreciation for high quality production values for it to significantly affect the score of any entry on MAL. After all, we collectively awarded Steins Gate Zero with an absurdly high score, and that shit looked like a B-Train movie. If you ask me whether they can put it into words or not, people are being moved by Yamada Naoko's powerful directing, not the sometimes non-existent improvements they're claiming to have any appreciation for. I have no idea what we're talking about here. Platinum End has been sold to us as the spiritual successor to Death Note, and those are some big shoes to fill, because Death Note, according to this lovely website, is among the most popular anime ever made. But why is that? Its animation is shoddy, its art design is good, but given the subpar animation, many of the beautiful characters are often off-model anyway. The background art is utterly hideous, the voice acting is good, but since many people unapologetically recommend the fucking English dub, they must not have had any real appreciation for it. The concept is incredible, it makes for an exciting story, but the execution ultimately boils down to any other shonen battle manga, only without the action scenes, and the final 12 episodes of the show are widely seen as complete shit. I could go on, but you get the point. Most aspects of the show aren't exactly what you would expect from one of the most popular anime ever made, so then why is Death Note considered one of the best, greatest anime thrillers of all time? Well, the answer is in the question. It's extremely well directed. Tetsuro Araki is a visionary who's able to get you on the edge of your seat just by watching some asshole write names down in a notebook, or quite famously, take a potato chip and eat it. Death Note is exciting because its shots are so well timed, its transitions are so cleverly planned, because Araki and his team knew exactly how to storyboard shots with maximum energy. Even when the scene had little to no movement, you're going to read a lot of people complaining about Platinum Man's story and its characters, its animation, and a bunch of other bullshit, but I want you to know most, if not all, of these complaints can also be accused of Death Note. The real reason Platinum End feels so thin and forgettable is that it has no gravitas, it's just poorly directed. All these other complaints are still totally valid though, because Platinum End is a complete clusterfuck. Name recognition can certainly do a lot to secure a show's success, but for a show which seemingly lives and dies on its connection to Death Note, nothing about it ultimately has the same appeal, no matter what superficial similarities they may share. Like Death Note, Platinum End is a death game plot centered around angelic, demonic beings bestowing powers upon humans they deem to be worthy in some thematically relevant fashion, and those who receive the power to fight each other for some nebulous prize, which in this case is to become God. However, what made Death Note interesting was that characters and their memorable personalities. Light Yagami was a legendary, unforgettable, absolutely irreplaceable leading man, but Mirai, the protagonist of Platinum's End, is just some boring sad boy. The competition between Light and L was intellectual, yes, but it was also ideological. The Angel Arrows, the show's equivalent to the Death Notes, have mechanics which the characters have to work around in mildly interesting ways, but when it actually comes down to their motivations and convictions, they just scream a bunch of uninspiring platitudes at each other and navel gaze about nothing. To this day, people still debate whether or not what Light did was wrong, because Death Note was able to convincingly raise genuinely challenging moral quandaries for the audience to ponder. Platinum End just feels so obvious and, I hate to say it, pretentious. If you want to watch an embarrassingly edgy and competently adapted pseudo-intellectual piece of trash with a hideously inconsistent production, boring and confusing characters, and one of the most bizarre non-endings I think I've ever seen, then I guess you have my recommendation. This paragraph is going to contain major spoilers. Alright, you've been warned. The paragraph is going to contain major spoilers because I want to talk about the show's infamous ending. In the anime community, the act of calling something pretentious has itself become pretentious by definition, because it is the ultimate act of putting on a pretense to appear smart. By saying it, people are saying the anime didn't fulfill their intellectual needs, when in fact they simply didn't understand it. It offers zero analysis or genuine criticism while putting on airs of superiority. Platinum End, however, truly is pretentious. At the end, the emo kid wins, and when he becomes God, he kills himself. So everyone dies and the world ends because God is dead. That's it. What I think happened was Sugumi Oba tried to cram multiple ideas into one story and just came out totally disjointed with a death game, Sentai parody, and philosophical floundering all clashing together. At first, it was probably supposed to be more action-orientated, but after declining manga sales, they did a major pivot to try and make it more like Death Note, defaulting on all its old thriller scenarios, only in a way that felt totally contrived in absence of all proper setup. After that, both the author and the artist lost their steam, so Oba just pontificated their half-baked philosophies while rushing toward the finale. Oba must have been some kind of edgy nihilist or something, because this isn't the first time they've written about how nothing matters and the world is rotten. And the ending directly contradicts the opening statement at the start of the manga. It isn't depressing or bleak, because it doesn't come across as being written by someone with actual depression or particularly bleak, because I guess you could say that was evident in parts of Death Note as well. Nihilism isn't even a proper definition of this. God made humans and all life on Earth, but aliens made God because they want to die. I'm sorry, but what the fuck kind of philosophy is that supposed to be? This show is honestly really interesting to watch and wonder how all these ideas were originally supposed to coalesce. But the final product's a total waste. I'm usually very forgiving to bad shows as long as they were trying to do something interesting, which this clearly was, but maybe just read the manga, because while the few scenes had some effort put in, the vast majority of the anime feels so fucking lifeless. A production that seemingly was only organized out of the producer's desire to cash in on name recognition when its once famous, questionably relevant authors may or may not even desire to deserve any longer. Thank you for reading. I didn't learn anything about that. Whatever. Shingeki no Kyojin. 8, 7, 5. What's this? Jose the Tiger and the Fish. Is that a movie? It's a movie, yeah. 10, 7, 3. Oh no. You can't give it a 3. It's got an 8, my guy. You can't do that. I don't care about movies. Let's go 10C. I'm not touching that one with a 10-foot pole. Kaizoku Ojo. Pirate Princess. This is a... What the hell is this? Huh. 4. A promising pirate tale made laughable with contrived storytelling and convoluted fantasy elements. Hold on, what's the story here? A decade ago, a tragic shipwreck separated Fenna Holtman from her childhood friend Yukimaru and took her father's life. Now at age 23, she is trapped on an island and is doomed to spend the rest of her life selling herself to men. On the night she is forcibly wed to a client, Fenna hatches a plan to escape from her employers. Two old acquaintances unexpectedly intervene and help her run away. The three make haste for the open sea and land upon Goblin Island, a mysterious place that a clan of fierce warriors call home. If Fenna learns that her father's ill-fated final journey at sea was in search of a place called Eden, a location of something important that he had to protect. With nothing but a clear crystal as a clue, Fenna is tasked with finding the place, and she's the only person who can do so. Why? While still contemplating the search for what her father left behind, Fenna reunites with Yukimaru, who encourages her to take up the quest. Now the captain of a 7-person crew. They're all dudes, by the way. Fenna must navigate the high seas in search of Eden, but as uncanny groups begin to target her, the perilous journey proves to be even more challenging than previously seen. Holy shit, you can see it in the episode preview. Oh my god. Fenna Pirate Princess is a somewhat misleading title. Fenna is a princess, but not a pirate. There's more emphasis on romance and drama than swashbuckling sword fights or buried treasure. Imagine if Princess Peach went on a globe-trotting adventure, a damsel to constantly get kidnapped by one-dimensional villains, and a MacGuffin to steer the plot. Except Fenna lacks the charm of your imagination. Her ditzy and energetic personality loses charm quickly, especially because she's intentionally annoying. A running gag is that she talks too much, which never becomes funny. The swaths of men who vie for her affection or to simply spend a night with her do so because she is irresistibly attractive, or so we are told. She's blonde, blue-eyed, and very white, which characters repeatedly imply and sometimes say outright, equals purity. Aside from being the perfect specimen of beauty, her personality is skin deep. She's a blank slate chosen one for the viewer to project onto. Oh no. What she has been chosen for is rather ambiguous. The so-called pirates, both good and evil, believe she possesses an intangible key, the key to a mysterious place called Eden. The name may make you wonder if Pirate Princess is a biblical metaphor, but a surprising direction the story goes make you question if the writer has even picked up the Bible. When Fenna is held up by bandits, she prays for someone to save her. Peepo soft. But a man shows up to save her. Again, she begs to be saved, and she isn't capable of taking care of herself. Luckily, she is shrouded in plot armor. All she has to do is be a damsel in distress. Her only other usage is leading the way to Eden with magical contrived abilities. When her escorts are lost, she switches to an alter ego and knows exactly what to do. Dream sequences and flashbacks hint she has deeper motivations and suppressed memories, and the build-up is constantly intriguing. On the other hand, the payoff for her character arc is a massive dud. Abel Bluefield is the anime's central antagonist, who at the start replaces the would-be villain that planned to marry Fenna. He gave the suitor, a womanizer, an ultimatum to capture Fenna or die. Abel inevitably takes the reins as the true villain, accompanied by his disorganized pirate henchmen. The time they chose after Fenna and Co. The chase. When the series takes itself less seriously and it's earnestly a blast, but that does not last. The lead swashbuckler, a red-haired busty pirate, comes on to Abel to remind you that this isn't a kid's show. As the series progresses, Abel becomes increasingly fascistic and joins together with nameless European soldiers. Yukimaru is the love interest and childhood friend of our titular heroine, a skilled fighter with a subdued personality that makes up for her boisterous behavior. Their relationship consists of her blushing at the thought of romance with him, being oblivious to anything related to love. What 20-year-old guy doesn't know what sex is? It takes more than blushing and awkward pauses to convince an audience that two characters are in love. Those are just some many failed attempts at comedy. They usually get dispensed by a comic relief character. Either the jokes are incomprehensible or there was no punchline because they never made one made me laugh. Well, intentionally. The melodramatic lectures from Yukimaru and Shitan are more effective at inducing laughter than being taken seriously. When Fenna starts singing like a Disney princess and Yukimaru instantly knows the lyrics by heart, you have to wonder if the writers intended for it to be taken seriously. Compared to Fenna and Yukimaru, how do the rest of the characters fare? They're one note. Their reason for accompanying them on the journey to Eden is that of obligation. We know their names, but not their motivations or their personalities beyond surface-level traits. The time the anime attempts to develop chemistry between the good guys comes off as awkward. They're more believable as a group of actors who hate each other, pretending to be friends with the team. The animation, sound, and music are perfunctory. It is a predictable soundtrack with a few insert songs that leave no impression. At least it is never distracting. Action-packed fight sequences once an episode spice up the adventure and endless comic relief. There's enough violence and death to keep you interested in being the long stretches of waiting for things to happen. A typical polished series for studio production IG, Psycho-Pass, Haikyuu, Ancient Magus Bride. Visually is one of the less impressive efforts, though the art and animation are more consistent than 90% of seasonal anime. It's not enough to sell a fundamentally flawed anime, particularly when the climax is a wet fart of an ending. Fenna, aka the white marginal pasty girl, Snow White and the Pirate follows a monotonous pattern. Kidnapping, fall stakes, awkward romance, and heartfelt speeches that fall flat. In the third art, it takes a sharp turn into nonsensical fantasy territory, God, the afterlife, spirits, and a forced attempt at meta-commentary on fairy tales. By the time the show has already crashed and burned, the final twist is so alienating that it leaves you numb. I've become so numb! I've never heard of this show. I've never heard of this show. Ugh. 8. Oh shit, I forgot about this. Oh man, I forgot about the Higurashi reboot. Ten, 2, 2, 9. Nipa. Wow, I'm Nipa. Nipa. I want to read this guy. Whoa. All right. Buckle up, chat. Buckle up. Get your stretch break in. Get your water. It's time to go. Hold on. Okay, here you go. Yes. There you go. What is she doing? Okay. This video quality sucks. Let's try this one. That's it? It's 1 hour long. There's gonna be like a jump scare in here, I bet. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. Okay. This review contains spoilers, so I'm gonna say right now, I watched the original Higurashi. I really liked it. When I heard it was getting a new thing, I didn't know if it was a reboot or a new series, and I didn't watch it. And then I got a second season, and the opinions of it just kept going down and down and down, and I lost all motivation to pick it up. The entire time spent watching Higurashi Go, I found a pair of questions plaguing my mind. Who is this for, and why does it exist? Unfortunately, 2 hours later, I still lack any satisfactory answers. As much as I'd like to believe this exists for reasons beyond plugging a gacha game and lining the creator's pockets, I'm struggling to say otherwise. I can only hope the upcoming sequel Sotsu will be able to build off of Go's foundation and take the story anywhere interesting or meaningful as is. The only thing I can credit Go for is extreme lack of respect for the viewer's time and mental capacities. It is incessant desire to subvert the viewer's expectations and stomp over everything the original series stood for. Let me start off by reiterating the question of who is this for, because I think it is a key point in criticizing Go. As many viewers unfortunately found out the hard way, Higurashi Go is not a remake, despite being initially marketed as such. The only possible explanations I can come up with for this decision are A, getting more viewers by baiting people unfamiliar with the franchise to watch it, and B, Ryukishi 07 having a lot of fun messing with people. Given statements that Higurashi Go would be welcoming for the new viewers, I'm inclined to believe that there's at least some truth to the latter. Of course, Go spoils the original series pretty significantly, and I think everyone acquainted with it would agree that this isn't a good starting point for newcomers. Therefore, Higurashi Go must be targeted towards the existing fans of the series, right? Well, sort of. See, one of Go's biggest issues is that it spends its entire runtime hedging the interests of both groups. This fundamentally doesn't work. It only succeeds in confusing new viewers while ruining many twists to the original story. Meanwhile, this only makes the story drag on and on for experienced viewers who have to sit through recap after recap that adds virtually nothing to Go's new story. The entire first core falls heavily into this trap. Spoilers ahead, because I can't really criticize Go without discussing at least a significant plot twist. Okay, here we go. It's essentially 13 episodes of accelerated rehashing, except the endings to the arcs have changed in an effort to capture experienced viewers' interest. The arcs don't work anywhere nearly as well because they're built to have very different payoffs. In fact, they mainly serve to introduce newer viewers to the cast. That being said, I'm critiquing this as it is a sequel and not a reboot, so I don't really care about that. What I do, or rather did, care about was the new mysteries the first core set up. It seemed to build up some grand web of mystique in the vein of the original. I was curious, what was up with the Sonzaki sisters? Was it Mion this time who had gone L5? What was up with Satoko, or Oishi, or Takano? Why was Rika merely sitting back and watching things go awry when things are the lessons of the original series? The aforementioned subversions of expectations had already begun. A quick reveal that it was a sequel, a gradual reveal that someone new was likely pulling the strings, the twist endings for each rehashed arc of the original Higurashi, all providing just enough interest through a lot of dry, reused content to keep me waiting, wanting to push through. Little did I know anything interesting about the first core was just another subversion, as the second core makes it all pointless. Reacquainting the viewer with the original cast, none of them have any plot relevance aside from Rika and Satoko. Setting up a grand sense of mystery with all twists and moving parts. Too bad the only purpose to any of it was the obvious things. Someone was deliberately making the arcs that should be going right go horribly wrong in new ways, and yes, that someone was Satoko, who everyone and their dog was suspicious of by the end of the core. More on her later, of course. Characters acting suspiciously out of character, such as Rika conveniently deciding to ignore her friends when confiding in them, was what saved her in the first place. Either a result of Go changing arc endings for the sake of changing them, or Go decided to make them out of character, which certainly wasn't about to stop. Anyways, moving to the second core, we get our first arc, Nekodamashi Hen. The first 2 episodes of Nekodamashi Hen exist to convey one point, being Rika Furude is suffering. In particular, the second one begins to make it clear Go just wants to spin its wheels and waste time. A theme that only clear across the second core, just in case a core of rehashed or foreshadowing one of 2 meaningful points didn't get across. It finally addresses Rika's lack of seeking help by flashing forward through a bunch of outright comical gore scenes. More on that later as well, where everyone else betray her. Any sense of mystery created earlier on evaporates as the show bashes into your head. Someone is clearly trying to mess with Rika. After this, the third episode decides that if you hadn't been in enough pointless gore torture porn and spent 10 minutes having Satoko drag out Rika's intestines. It was at the exact moment that I gave up on expecting Go to be clever and meaningful. Look, I know, listen. I know that Higurashi is known for some graphic shit, but surely he's exaggerating on that one, right? Surely he exaggerated on that one. Okay. Let's compare the Dean adaptation for a moment, something that, regardless of any of the many fair criticisms levied at it, tried to be legitimately unsettling instead of purely relying on cheap theatrics. Dean adaptation realizes that describing Wadadagashi is already enough to rattle the viewer. Go spends half an episode dragging out, showing it in excruciating detail. Dean adaptation certainly goes extra with the gore and violence aspects of points, but is purposeful with them and usually wraps them in enough meaningful mystery or character plot related intensity to make it captivating. Scenes like the time Keiichi and Satoko stumble upon Rika's mutilated corpse build an atmosphere of mystery and tension. Scenes like Shion butchering Satoko and having a mental breakdown further the extremely messed up character development at play and have significant payoffs later in the series. Go, mindless drawn out violence for the sake of mindless drawn out violence. Blood splatters the size of a small tsunami attached to a bright, lively art style that's both combined to make it impossible to take anything seriously. Bonking people on the head with a baseball bat and having their eyes comically bulge out at one point. A character throws them in front of a bus just to comically blood splatter another character. It's impossible to take any of it seriously. This sounds like a meme. This sounds like a meme, dude. Anyway, back to the episode. Ignoring the comically bad torture porn, this is also where Go begins to completely break down in portraying the characters. Rika at this point is down worse than she was at the beginning of Kai. She curses her cruel fate, wants nothing more than to leave Hinamizawa and all the horrible memories she's attached here, and has basically given up on trying to fight against it. It's already rather strange that Rika wants to leave behind Hinamizawa and most of her friends, given the message of the original series. It's even stranger given Higurashi Go, which completely contradicts this motive, but wanting to leave behind a century of awful memories is rationalizable, so I digress. Satoko, who Rika at least thinks has gone L5 and completely insane from Hinamizawa syndrome, says some mumbo jumbo to her about Rika is cursed by Oyashiro, and Rika's character motives built up to the last arc almost entirely evaporate. Never mind that Rika is even intimately familiar with Oyashiro. That's all it takes. She goes from literally wanting to commit suicide to actually I wouldn't trade my time for Hinamizawa in the world because of a bit of gaslighting. What? If you thought that the character moment was nonsensical, the next arc then tops with outright butchering of Satoko's character. We're leading to feel sympathetic of Satoko because Rika abandoned her, emphasis on the quotation marks, which is supposed to make us feel bad for the character who's time looping to torture and gaslight her supposed friend into staying with her forever and in general massacring her friends and villager over repetitive time loops. This abandonment consists of Rika wanting to leave Hinamizawa, going to fancy boarding school and making a bunch of new high society friends while Satoko struggles academically. She offers to help Satoko and Satoko refuses, isn't capable of keeping up with her at school. This causes her to fall into a state where she wants to loop back and change everything and is somehow granted that power by a new, suspiciously Umeneko-like Hanyu equivalent. Reasonable enough progression so far, right? Satoko then loops back, gets persuaded by Rika to go through essentially the same loop again because Rika says she's never been abandoned her friend, refuses Rika's help again, ends with the same situation that causes Satoko to become so mad and distrustful of Rika that she goes insane and turns into a cartoon villain obsessing over making the perfect timeline where Rika stays with her forever. I could only believe that some of the sort of modified Hinamizawa syndrome at work here, as Satoko from this point onwards makes no sense with the original depiction of the character, or in general for that matter. However, given the show spends an entire arc establishing her motives along with multiple episodes that add nothing to the story beyond, in case you didn't notice the last 10 times when we said it, yes, Satoko is bad now, it's hard for me to say that with conviction. Seriously, in case I haven't conveyed how ridiculous this becomes, here's an example. There's a point where Satoko is given access to the timelines Rika suffered through over a century, and Satoko's response is, I must watch them all to understand her. The show then tells us she spent a century watching timelines of everything going wrong, comes out of it with zero change to her motivations. If anything, she's more gung-ho to manipulate Rika and feel less sympathy for her friend, and carries on as if it was a completely logical response to a friend growing more distant from you. I don't even know what I'm reading anymore. The subversions of expectations only continue to grow in the final arc. I can only imagine RO7 is having a lot of fun messing with us. The plot stops moving entirely after Rika's arc, after leaving it off at a cliffhanger and never comes back. Even after a very in-depth flashback of Satoko's motivations with 3 episodes left, it slows to an absolute crawl with no meaningful progression. The first of these 3 episodes is another episode that adds literally nothing to the story. It's just Satoko and Ua talking and plotting and more establishment that Satoko is acting completely out of character. Just in case we couldn't realize Satoko had become bad, she also finds out that Satoshi and doesn't seem to particularly care, which outright makes no sense given her obsession and complexes toward him in the original. But whatever, why start being in character now? The second decides to throw in a random Teppei redemption arc. While this episode does at least try to do something interesting, I unsurprisingly don't feel particularly sympathetic for an abusive father who beats and abandons a young child just because he realizes he's going to die alone. Perhaps the sequel will build out this in useful ways, but it adds nothing to the story so far. Not to mention it feels like an appalling narrative given the character's previous depiction. Otherwise, the episode seems to exist just to demonstrate characters can learn things over the course of loops, something we already knew about. The next episode and the finale of the series also exists for the same reason. It tries to explain some of the mysteries of the first core, Takedo's motivations, how Satoko acquired the virus. But A, the concept is already established many times over, and B, the viewer can infer how Satoko's looping power could gain her access to the virus without an episode dedicated to it. If anything, the idea is Satoko has a code break to get the virus and does it manually attempting or studying every time she guesses the wrong password is stupider than any way I would have imagined. And C, resolving the random mysteries in the first core means nothing if they don't matter whatsoever to the plot. You're just adding content for the sake of adding content. Half of the episodes also spent as a flashback to Kai, even during the season finale. Go still attempts to cater to new Higurashi viewers by exposition dumping the plot of the original series. I've said it before, but Go really feels like it has no respect for the viewer's time. Having completed the series, I feel like I watched about 3 episodes of content stressed across 2 cores. The entire plot can be summed up as follows. Rika has returned to June 1983, and this time everything is being directly manipulated against her. It's eventually revealed that this is being done by Satoko, who feels betrayed by Rika and wants to create a timeline where Rika and her are happily together. That is the entire plot of the whole two whole cores. Any attempt to sense a misdirection feels like just that. Misdirection for the misdirection's sake to pad for time. Any revisiting of anything even else feels like it's going to be there for the pad for time. Any usage of other existing characters feels like it's just for pad for time. Even now, it feels like to believe there's more of the story. I still hope in vain for Sotsu to redeem some of the drudgery. Unfortunately, all I can say for now is I came into Go wanting to revisit both the deep web of mystery and beloved cast of the original Higurashi, and I found a distinct lack of either. Instead, I found a sequel that only serves to trample on everything I loved about Higurashi. The messaging of the value of trust and friendship are gone, replaced with dreary cynicism and misery. Instead, everyone has been quietly broken apart. I can't help but think of one of the background point where the show mentions Mion being ignoring her old friends for months now that she's a college student. Xion completely disappears, and Rena and even Keiichi, the one who Rika once viewed as the key to changing fate, have stopped mattering entirely. As of the hidden depth of the characters feels forgotten in favor of dumbing them down with repeated jokes, and any of the heart and series that disappears with it. Any mysteries show and Go feel like they're just there to spin the wheels pointlessly, and any cleverness and subtlety in the show feels like it's been thrown out of the window in favor of repeatedly shoving points down a viewers' throats to convey their importance. Any genuine sense of tension and psychological unease have disappeared in favor of cheap theatrics befitting a C-list horror movie. Any meaning to be very timeless has also disappeared. Satoko even literally says in the final episode that her failed timelines don't matter, and it only feels like some combination of dead space and misery for misery's sake. The pacing drags on at a snail's pace and doesn't even matter because nothing matters anymore. This new hellbound Satoko can simply snap her fingers and undo it with her ridiculously broken powers. Higurashi Go has either intentionally or unintentionally deconstructed basically every strength of the series. While some fans seem to find that entertaining, I simply cannot understand why anyone would want that. I don't even possibly know where it's going anymore, and I'm not even sure I want to find out. I'm sure I'll end up watching Sotsu regardless, hoping in vain to recapture some of the magic that made me love the series in the first place. And I suspect I'll end up back here again venting to my absolute disappointment. Maybe it'll turn out better and redeem some of Go's failings for me, but I can't see any world where that it isn't a huge letdown. Oh. How about that sequel? How about that sequel? He's not here. Man, this guy gave Sotsu a 10 and now he's here to give it a 6? What happened? Bro, what happened? This is a chat. This is the finale. Be careful what you wish for. Higurashi Go and Sotsu are exactly what people mean when they say that phrase. I love Higurashi, but admittedly the original adaptation has aged poorly. I wanted to see one of my favorite stories remade, and now that it's finally gotten a reboot, I wish it hadn't been. Over a decade after the original anime era, they have resurrected the franchise for no reason other than profit. Go was purposely mismarketed as a remake to attract curious new viewers, then it rebranded itself as a sequel to get the old fandom's attention. Occasionally, it had scary moments, but it never proved why it should exist. Sotsu is supposedly the answer arcs, but it's 90% reused footage with slight alterations. These reboots focus specifically on Rika and Satoko. Rika wants to leave Hinamizawa and go to a prestigious high school. Satoko dreams of staying in Hinamizawa forever, but she will not let Rika leave. What ensues is endless torture porn. With the help of an enigmatic spirit, Satoko gains the same looping ability as Rika. Every time they enter a new loop, a comically evil version of Satoko makes Rika suffer as much as possible. The end goal is for her to give up her dreams of escaping. That's it. That's your 39 episodes in a nutshell. I could end this review here, but we need to discuss what turned this from a lukewarm spin-off to the worst thing that's ever happened to When They Cry. Higurashi's first 2 seasons were a nicely completed story. There's no reason to watch Go. I only finished it because I wanted to see what would happen to my favorite characters. Sotsu has the same problem, and it fails to justify its existence. Supposedly, the anime are the bridge between the series and Umineko, but it would be less exhausting to read a Wikipedia summary. There's a common argument about this show that can't possibly be crap because Ryukishi 7, the original visual novel author, co-wrote the show's script. That's a pretty awful excuse. I shouldn't have to explain why, but I will. Writers mess up from time to time. Sometimes they lose their spark altogether. Have you ever heard of Star Wars? The Rise of Skywalker? George Lucas co-wrote that script, and it ended up being the worst received film in the franchise. Ooh. Ooh. There's nothing new here. Keiichi, Reda, Mion, Shion are the same character arcs, except their personalities are stripped to outlines of their former selves. In terms of character development, do you remember Satoko's abusive uncle? Well, they gave him a redemption arc. Great work, guys. The only thing that distinguishes this as a sequel is Satoko's intervention. She injects various friendly faces with Himenozawa syndrome, the virus that causes psychosis. There's no deeper meaning for why the lovable cast of maniacs lose their grip on reality. Wacky old Satoko pulls the strings, watered down themes from the original to act as set dressing, cycles of abuse, cultural preservation, evil government, harmful traditions, etc. The new theme is a shallow good versus bad conflict, no nuance. Rika is the good guy because she wants to save everyone. Stoko is the big bad because she will kill anyone who keep Rika from escaping. Stoko turns from an abuse victim to faking getting abused to manipulate her friends. The sharp turn into foul territory makes me question the sincerity of the anti-child abuse messages in the original. Even with a stellar presentation, they would have still been an unengaging turd, but that's not good either. The directing deserves its fair share of criticism too. Higurashi has always used tonal shifts to its advantage. Half of the show is upbeat slice of life with family-friendly comedy. At the drop of a hat, it could turn sinister. Reda curses Keiichi under her breath and returns to her happy-go-lucky self. The reboot utilizes the same technique to build tension, except way too much. It's cool to see Satoko go berserk after 2 whole seasons of her being the same one, but we get it. She's bloodthirsty, evil, and manipulative. You don't need to beat us over the head with every 2 seconds. At least Satoko's voice actress is trying, and that's all I'll say. I don't object to use violence in your horror anime, and Go and Sotsu, I frequently wonder why the gore was there, just as I question why the rest of the show was there. Why use so much violence when Higurashi strength was creating tension and shock without it? Sure, it always had its fair share of violence, but they used it sparingly. Go and Setsu are filled to the brim with serial killers, stranglings, bloody knives, shootings, and immolations. In Go, they censored it. So, Sotsu uncensored much of the carnage. I'd say it's better to watch as a slasher thriller, but it gets trite quickly. You can only watch so many crazy people go on a murderous rampage before it gets mind-numbingly banal. I love Higurashi because no matter how many times I watch it, I notice new details. It foreshadows its twist, you can predict they're coming, but rewatching it will feel like all the more rewarding. Sotsu and Go are not like this. Their narratives are a means to get to a shocking scene. They never considered if the twist would linger with the audience. The most foreshadowing in both seasons is the opening credits. Both seasons have dubstep theme songs that do not fit the show at all. The new art style doesn't work either. Sure, Studio Dean's adaptation left a lot to be desired, but it was an artistic representation of the mundane, cute slice of life contrasted with violence for shock factor. They could have achieved the same effect with an art style similar to the visual novel remakes. Instead, they went for something generic. The use of visual effects like CGI flames was distractingly cheap. Higurashi Sotsu could have been a 2-hour movie, cut out all the recaps, all that's left is Satoko screaming and people going crazy. It is a grossly mismarketed and unwatchable sequel. Unless you have seen every season of Higurashi, 16 plus hours, or read the Umineko no Naku Koro ni novels, 110 hours, do not bother watching these. Holy shit. The final arc of Go set up an intriguing premise, but Sotsu never had a payoff. Even diehard When They Cry fans will be disappointed with the direction it takes. You must see how it ends. Start from episode 14 of Sotsu. It becomes Dragon Ball, equipped with neon color battles, super strength, and fighting that better suits a kid's cartoon if you remove all the blood splatters. Go and Sotsu regurgitate as much of the imagery we expect from Higurashi as possible. It successfully drew the attention of longtime fans, only to waste our time on an absolutely meaningless sequel. There's a few effectively staged gory scares provided past entertainment, but the rest is bland and tedious. The brief burst of spontaneous insanity in the final episode of Sotsu serves as the last gasp with air of the decaying, mutilated corpse of a franchise. Yet I doubt we've seen the last of When They Cry. Oh. That's a shame. You know what that did make me do, though? It makes me want to watch the original. The classics. Prequel. Ray's the second season. Or is that the OVA? Kai. Yep. Kai is the sequel. It's good, if you didn't know. The When They Cry adaptation is actually good. The first season, and then the second season. It's good. It's quite good, I promise you. It is good. But there you go, chat. It's going to wrap that up for this time. Whoa! Toho! Whoa! But yeah, this kind of just made me want to rewatch the series. Oh, it's only 20 seconds long. Don't worry. But that's going to wrap it up for this one. You know what? I had fun with this. As per usual. Mr. Panda had some good shit. Made me laugh. But my throat? Holy shit. I gotta stop talking. Goodbye.